The United States Post Office is facing a $20 billion deficit. In an attempt to cut costs, they're considering closing thousands of post offices across the country. In the process, it could be a final blow to many of America's struggling little towns. Tonight, we start a new series looking at the history of some of these small towns here in Montana. We start in Ingomar.
Denver omelets, yep. It's a favorite around here.
And so is the Jersey Lily.
How's the food?
That's good.
The bar is about the only thing left in Ingomar, a historic little town about halfway between Roundup and Forsyth.
Ingomar came in with the railroad in 1910. It at one time had 46 businesses in it.
Nice day in Montana.
Ingomar had a couple fires in it. The first fire, some places rebuilt, the second one not so much.
Leaving the town basically as it began. When you walk into the Jersey Lily bar, you can actually hear history come to life.
I describe it as a step back in time. It's the West. It's the way that it used to be.
People still hang their laundry out to dry. Buildings are still heated with wood-burning stoves.
Been here a long time.
And believe it or not, the only bathrooms at the Jersey Lily are these outhouses. While the Lily is nationally known for its bean soup,
And I'm making a fresh pot right there.
Ingomar has another claim to fame. It was once the sheep shearing capital of the world.
In the spring, as far as you could see, there'd be herders bringing their bands in to be shorn.
This train car once brought water to the 600 people living in Ingomar, but when the tracks stopped coming through in the early 80s, residents of Ingomar were left to find more than just a new source of water. They needed customers. Slowly, people started to move away, the local school seemingly blown away with the wind.
Well, it started with the railroad going out. Ingomar High School was going and closed in '51. When you lose your schools in a community, that does take the community. You lose your community a lot, you know. You know, it just does.
But the story doesn't stop there. In the last year, the population of Ingomar actually doubled as retirees moved in, looking for a little peace and quiet. Now, the tiny town is facing another potential disaster. The postmaster worries if the post office closes, the aging population that relies on its mail for medication will have to move away.
It would be the icing on the cake.
It would be a blow to the community.
But for now, the 12 people who call Ingomar home still gather at the Lily for a Saturday morning meal and hope the lure of this historic bar will keep the town afloat, even if the post office closes. The Postal Service is expected to make its final decision on which offices will close by January. Tomorrow night, here on the First News at 5, we'll travel to a central Montana town made famous by Jimmy Buffett and the Ringling Brothers Circus. In an attempt to cut $20 billion from the budget, the United States Postal Service is considering closing thousands of post offices across the country. It could be a final blow to many of America's struggling small towns. Tonight, we visit Ringling, a town made famous by two powerful men. Ask people what the town of Ringling is known for, and you're likely to hear one thing.
Cattle country, mostly farming, ranching.
While most people drive right by the small town, just 20 miles south of White Sulphur Springs, the tiny town has a big history.
The Ringling Brothers had land here.
Amid all the glitz and glam of the Ringling Brothers show, John Ringling was looking for a quieter place to spend the off-season.
Well, they were big landowners. They invested in land out here. Some people think they wintered the animals here.
In the 70s, another big name blew through and struck a chord with the small town.
Ringling, Ringling, slipping away.
Singer and songwriter Jimmy Buffett.
Only 40 people living there today.
Yeah, he come through here and did a song, Ringling, Ringling.
It's a dying little town.
The one line, "It's a dying little town," is pretty well defines us.
Like so many towns along the Milwaukee, when the tracks left, Ringling began to crumble. First the depot, then the bank, leaving behind just this vault, and then the school.
Hey, Margie. Hi.
But the 15 people who call Ringling home still gather every day for a social hour. Their gathering spot? The post office.
It's the only place left in town now. It's where everybody gets together and catches up.
40 people get their mail here at the Ringling Post Office, but if proposed cuts go through, these boxes would be closed forever.
And this will be the end of our community, and it'll just be a huge loss.
Good morning, Ringling Post Office. This is Margie.
Margie would lose her job, and the post office would become just another building left to the elements.
Just seems like a little more goes away every day. When we grew up as kids, there were buildings all over town. You know, lose this post office, and that'd be about the end of it.
Residents worry the historic little town would simply fade away.
It'll just be a wide spot in the road.
The Postal Service is expected to make its final decision on which offices will close by January. Tomorrow night, here on the First News at 5, we'll travel to Martinsdale to learn about the Bear family's influence on that small Montana community. 85 Montana towns could lose their post office if the U.S. Postal Service goes through with cuts of $20 billion from its budget. For many of these small towns, it would mean the final straw to sinking their struggling economy. Tonight, we visit Martinsdale. Visitors to Martinsdale are welcomed with a strong gust of wind. The town between White Sulphur Springs and Harlowton came in with the railroad, but the real boom came in the 30s when crews built 2 dams.
Busiest time for Martinsdale is probably when they put the reservoirs in, the dams in.
Residents estimate 600 people crowded into the little town to build the dams. The city had to build this extra jail to handle the extra population. Perhaps the most interesting part of Martinsdale's history is the story of one family that lived here.
Charlie Bear left home at the age of 20. We left home with 14 cents and 7 green apples.
Through work on the railroad, a gold mine in Alaska, and the largest sheep herd in the United States, Charlie Bear would turn those 14 cents into a fortune. Martinsdale's most senior resident remembers the family.
They made a lot of money in the business, and were nice people to associate with.
Their palatial home is now a museum decked out with original Charlie Russell paintings and gold-plated sinks. Charlie Bear's 2 daughters never had children. Like the town they called home, the Bear family faded into the history books.
The economy here isn't that great. The only jobs really are on ranches, and people just left for bigger and better things.
Now the winds of change are blowing again in the small town. The post office could be closing.
Just kind of our lifeline, pretty much.
If the proposed cuts go through, what people used to do locally here at the Martinsdale post office, they'd now have to do out of town.
If they closed it, we'd be stuck, as far as I know, either going to White Sulphur or Harlowton. It just seems kind of like a long drive just to go get mail.
But Martinsdale isn't gone with the wind just yet. In fact, landowners are trying to harness that wind to blow the town into the future.
We have a development in wind energy starting here right now.
County commissioners hope the tax revenue from the wind project will carry the town into better financial times, even if the post office closes. Now, the Postal Service is expected to make its final decision on which offices will close by January. This week, we also visited Ingomar and Ringling. To see those stories, visit color8.com.